Well, hello, and welcome back to episode 65 of the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast. My name is Josh. As always, I'm here with Troy. What's up, man?
Not much. What's going on with you?
Every day's a gift, brother. So this past weekend, kind of the big hockey event of the year in the state of Minnesota finished up with our State Boys High School Hockey Championships that are held every year at the Xcel Energy Center, of course, where the Minnesota Wild play. There's two classes. There's a smaller class, Class A, larger class, Class AA, and Minnetonka on AA, your school that you coach at, won the AA championship this year. I think they said like 20 straight games, which is pretty incredible. And then Matamidi on the single A side. There's a couple things that I think make this tournament really unique. The first is, and if you haven't done this yet, go to YouTube, search Minnesota State High School Tournament All Hockey Hair Team, and watch the video. It's a classic every year. It never disappoints. These boys have the most ridiculous hair, and it's worth the 8 minutes or so for watching it. Beyond that, okay, we get it, right? Canada's the nation of hockey. Detroit, I guess, is Hockey Town, USA, or whatever it's called. But if you've ever wondered why they call Minnesota the state of hockey, total attendances here for the boys' state high school hockey tournament, Troy, 111,079 people. Which is totally bonkers. And that's I think you added here was 129,000 was the record in 2008.
Yep.
That has to be the biggest state tournament. I can't imagine a football tournament is bigger than that, or maybe in Texas. I don't know. But it would be interesting to see like where that ranks for high school events in the United States.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how many people are there. It's sold out every year. People are outside scalping tickets to it. It's like the hottest ticket to get.
Yeah, if you don't get tickets weeks in advance, you're not getting in. It is crazy. Okay, quickly before we get started here, just a reminder that the Hockey Cards Gong Show is a Patreon podcast. That means that we rely on support for listeners like yourself to help us cover our expenses and keep the show rolling, continue to produce more and hopefully better hockey card content, and to help us fund initiatives to grow the hockey hobby in even a small way. Right now, there's still opportunity to be one of our first 99 supporters. Join the Out of 99 tier. It's $5 a month. And you also get exclusive access to the Hockey Cards Gong Show Discord server where you can chat with us and everyone else in our community on a daily basis. A lot of great hockey talk that happens there. Super easy to do. All you got to do is you can go to our website, hockeycardsgongshow.com, and click on the Become a Patron link at the top of the page. Or you can go to the Patreon website, patreon.com, and search for Hockey Cards Gong Show. There's a link in the show description for whatever podcast app you're listening to us on right now. Or you can visit the link tree that's in our Instagram profile or TikTok profile and get to our Patreon page there too. Thank you very much for your consideration and your support of our show. All right, Troy, you ready for the game plan?
On today's show, we begin with hockey's greatest number 65. We then take a quick look at the top drafted goalie prospects of 2023. This is followed by our look at the PWCC Weekly Auction and various hockey cards that stand out to us. Then it's off to hobby news and new product releases, and we end the show with our listener mailbag.
There's no guest. I was just going to say, there's no guest today. Kind of weird.
No, yeah, it's weird. No guest. So we have to actually do stuff. No, I'm just kidding.
We have to actually
We can't rely on the guest to take an hour of our time, so we're going to have to fill that space. Hopefully it's not dead air.
We normally get our nappy time in during guest interviews. Just kidding. No, it's Josh and Troy today. So kind of excited about that. It feels like it's been a while.
Definitely been a while. All right, we're on number 65, episode 65. So hockey's most famous number 65. Per the Hockey Writer's greatest player to wear each number article is Erik Karlsson. We continue the streak of recent players that we've had a run of. Actually, not a streak. We had one in there that wasn't, but we've had a lot of recent players. When we get into the 60s, probably in the 70 numbers, because it's kind of a recent phenomenon of people choosing these high numbers. All right, Erik Karlsson, 32-year-old defenseman from Landsbro, Sweden. He was drafted 15th overall in the 2008 NHL entry draft by the Ottawa Senators. I got to keep reminding myself. I keep thinking I'm going to say William Karlsson, but I'm on Erik Karlsson. Just got to get my brothers right.
Yeah.
Erik Karlsson is still currently playing in the NHL. As of the date, I did my research, my little disclaimer, which was last night. For his career, he has played in 905 regular season games over a 14-season NHL playing career. Karlsson started his career playing 9 seasons with the Ottawa Senators, and he has played the past 5 seasons with the San Jose Sharks.
It would have been weird had he retired today.
That would have been strange. Very strange. He ain't retiring. He's having a career year. All right, awards and accomplishments. He is a 2-time Norris Trophy winner, 2012 and 2015. Also has been the Norris Trophy runner-up twice in his career. 7-time NHL All-Star Game selection. 4-time NHL First All-Star Team selection, which is the end of the season award, not the All-Star Game. That was 7 times. 4-time NHL First All-Star Team selection.
That's so stupid. We got to fix that.
He was named to the NHL All-Decade Team for the 2010 through 2019 years. Pretty cool accomplishment. And that was given out by the NHL. This one, first time I've heard of this award, but I love it. 3-time Viking Award winner, which is given to the best Swedish ice hockey player in North America. The winner is decided by a vote among all Swedish-born players participating in the NHL or the NHL Farm Team Leagues. Josh, I'm guessing you've never heard of the Viking Award either.
No, and I was actually pretty snarky about it in my own mind here while you were talking until I learned just a second ago from you that it's voted on by all the Swedish players. Then I kind of like it.
Yeah, it's not some random group of Swedes in Stockholm or something at the Globe Arena hiding out in the basement making these votes. All right,
oddly specific. Try.
I've been there. I've been to Sweden. I've been to Stockholm. Okay. Stayed with. Okay, we're going to go on a tangent because you brought it up. I stayed with a kid over there whose dad played on the 1980 Swedish Olympic team. And I think the Swedish Olympic team got the bronze. And the last name, it was Holmgren. I can't remember the dad's name. I think the kid was Henrik Holmgren. I can't remember. I could be flip-flopping them.
So they beat Russia?
No, so the way they did it back then, I don't even know. It might have been just by record or points.
Oh.
I can't remember. I can't remember exactly, but I remember him telling me, he showed me, I got to see the bronze medal and hold it and everything. They tied the USA. And I think they're the only ones to tie them and not lose to them, if I remember right.
Gotcha.
But, all right, tangent over. Last thing for Karlsson on his awards and accomplishment, he was number 60 in the Athletics ranking of the top 100 players in modern NHL history. That's 6-0, number 60.
Is that the same one we broke down, like the post-expansion era, or is this a different Athletic?
No,
okay.
It's that one. It's the recent one that came out that they were running where it's the top 100, but really it's 99 because everyone knows who's number 1.
Danny Heatley.
Yeah, Danny Heatley. Currently in his career, Karlsson has 173 goals, 571 assists for 744 points. He's made the playoffs in 6 of his 14 NHL seasons, compiling 8 goals, 45 assists for 53 points and 67 playoff games played.
Can I make a point there?
Yep.
One might say making the playoffs 6 out of 14 years, big deal. But when you've played for the San Jose Sharks and the Ottawa Senators, I think that's fairly impressive.
Yeah, some lean years were probably in the mix with those. What's he got, 14 seasons? 14 seasons. Yeah. Best season of his career from a points standpoint is his current 2022-23 season, where Karlsson has 20 goals, 64 assists for 84 points and 67 games played. Puts him on pace for 103 points this year. But having 84 points is actually a career record for him right now. So every time he gets more points, he just keeps setting his career high. Pretty cool at 32 years old that he's having his best career ever. I like that. Karlsson is currently on the first defensive pairing with the Sharks. He's also on San Jose's first power play unit. So that's kind of a little background on him. So looking at Karlsson and his kind of career, how his play style is, fantastic player, one of the top, if not the best defenseman in the NHL during, we'll call it the 10s, I guess, 2010s, 2020s, even you could say in the past 10 years. Terrific speed, skill, makes him a definite offensive threat. Definitely known as more of an offensive defenseman. If there is a knock, it's maybe that he's not those prototypical defenseman. Maybe he lacks a little bit of skill in the defensive aspect of the game, but he makes up it with his speed, skill, his offensive threat. Another thing, anytime you read an article on Karlsson, I found this out by all the ones I read, and you get quotes and you talk about teammates, and they just mention how confident in his ability and his overall game he is. Some could say that's cocky. I love it because I think to be successful in the highest level of sports, you have to be cocky or confident. but it's funny that they all mention how confident he is. And just, he's got this aura when he walks into the room or into the rink. Like he knows he's good.
Does he talk about himself in the third person?
I don't think so. I didn't see any of that talking about himself in the third person. Also important to remember, Karlsson's career has had some scary incidents where he had one where he tore 70% of his Achilles tendon when it was sliced by Matt Cook's skate blade in February of 2013. And the only good thing I read about that injury was that it was a clean slice, so it was pretty easy to fix. But he's also had other injuries that required surgeries. I want to say he's had another like ankle issue and maybe a sports hernia and just some of those things you don't like to hear about and think about. But he's definitely known for his grit and playing through a lot of injuries. They always come out, it seems, at the end of the season, or you see him like we always say Draisaitl, where he goes out, skates around like crazy, gets to the bench and collapses because he can't make it through just sitting there. Same thing with Karlsson. He's definitely a gamer, grinds through it, plays through injuries, which can be good and bad. And if you look at Karlsson's current play this year, he's right back in the conversation for the Norris Trophy, and I would say he's probably the front runner right now for the award. So overall, great player who's definitely having a renaissance this year. I think you can't argue that. So it'll be interesting to see how this season ends for him.
Who'd the other candidates be?
Well, the ones I've seen, they still throw Makar in there.
Dougie Hamilton, maybe?
Maybe. There's some names you always think of. I just can't remember off the top of my head because I don't remember anything. Fun facts. We got 3 of them. Was the second Swedish player to win the Norris Trophy. First being Nicholas Lidström. He was the 3rd player under the age of 23 to win the Norris Trophy. The first was Bobby Orr, and the second was Dennis Potvin. I probably could have guessed Orr. No way would I don't think I would have got Potvin for winning it under 23.
Wouldn't you have just assumed Makar there? I'm trying to think how old he was when he won.
Well, Makar might have been under 23. Karlsson was the 3rd. It was Orr, then Potvin. When Karlsson won his, he was the 3rd player under 23. And then this last one, kids, don't do this. He's known for using snus, which is another word for chewing tobacco during games. Don't do that. Very bad for you. And you might swallow it, which is disgusting, and you might throw up. But I thought that was an interesting fact. That was in a couple of articles I read.
Okay, I'm going to get super Twin Cities on you for a second here.
Oh, yeah. Let's hear it.
You went to Gastov's when that was the German bar when that was open.
The Boot.
Right?
Yep.
The Boot. Well, isn't the snooze thing like the hammer deal that shoots tobacco up your nose?
Yeah, well, I don't think he had that in his mouth. I don't think he carried the little thing around him. I think snus, what I read, was a Swedish term for tobacco, maybe. But maybe he did that. Maybe I'm misinterpreting, but don't do
Did you ever
snus.
do that? Like have that hammer thing, like go like shoot the tobacco up your nose? It's the worst thing ever, dude.
Probably. I just probably don't remember it.
Oh, jeez. Okay. Kid show.
Yeah, kid show. All right, so that's a little overview and some fun facts of Karlsson. Let's look at his rookie card. 2009, Young Guns. The PSA 10 has a pop of 201, gem rate of 49%. And I didn't do a really in-depth dive on the cards, but the most recent sales are in the 150 to 160 range. And there's not a lot of them, obviously, with that low pop count. And the BGS 9.5 copy of the card has a pop of 310 with a gem rate of 63%. With recent sales for $100. But remember with BGS, always look at the subgrades because that can affect the pricing depending on if it's 4 9.5s or whatever. I don't even know all the different ways you can say it. BGS, the True Gems, the whatever they call it. It's ridiculous. I don't care to learn it. But anyways, that's what he's at for his rookie cards. So the resurgence is on. Might win the Norris Trophy. Really fun guy to do some research on. Has a sweet mustache and little chin beard.
He's kind of got like a light version of a Coach Co mustache, right?
Yeah, it does. Not as big as handlebars, but definitely trying to beat him.
He's having a great year too. Scoring a lot of goals. Got 20 goals already. It's pretty impressive for a defenseman for sure. Well, you're just going to keep rolling, Troy. This is the Troy Show. We're going to do some goalie breakdowns now, and might as well keep rolling with our resident goalie coach for that.
Let's do it. All right. Top drafted goalie prospects of 2023. And we're a little late here. This article came out about a month ago, but wanted to give a quick overview of the recent The Athletic article by Scott Wheeler on the top drafted goalie prospects in 2023. Now, we previously
tangent question here. Where does Wheeler rank in your favorite NHL writers.
Oh,
list.
They are all those guys that do prospecting for The Athletic. Who knows? They might just be sitting there making stuff up, but I love reading their stuff because they go so in depth and they just sit there and watch film after film because I don't think they travel all over the world seeing these guys. So they watch a lot of film. But yeah, he is awesome. And I love the stuff they put out. And it's not just like a little sentence or two on a guy. It's literally like 3 paragraphs. They'll go in on each player.
You learn a lot. And before you get into this too, we probably should mention there was a complimentary article to this. I covered the skaters that we covered on our show. What was it, 2-3 weeks ago? Probably something like that. But now we're getting around to the goalies, like you said. Okay, Troy.
So, all right. So looking at the goalies. So his criteria, they have to be under 25 years of age, and they cannot be currently established as one of their NHL's club's 2 go-to options. However, Wheeler states he can fudge this whenever he wants if he feels like it. So I found that kind of funny. But that's kind of the overall criteria. And the reason we're kind of doing this is just to give you guys, you listeners, everyone, a little taste or some names to keep your eyes out for when you hear these names come up, or maybe keep a list of possible goalie targets you might want to look at in the future. So a lot of this is just going to be stuff from the article. I'm not nowhere near as in-depth as he is on researching these guys. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at them real quick. First one, it's our boy. We love these lists for goalies because it's the number one prospect, and per Wheeler, he's the number one prospect by far. He's in his own kind of, I don't know what you call it, space on the list. Jesper Wallstedt, 20-year-old goalie, obviously, Minnesota Wild prospect. He, last year when he did the same rankings, he was the number one prospect too. So he hasn't changed that for the goalies. And if you read other pundits too, it's Wallstedt's the best, no questions. He's the best prospect on the planet right now for goalies. He's a big 6'3", plays sharp lines positionally, holds these lines, swallows the first shot so he doesn't have to make a ton of second saves. Incredibly calm in the net, staring down shooters and reading them. Covers the bottom of the net very well, doesn't seem to get beat along the ice. Very few shots kind of sneak through him. His movements are quick, compact, tracks the puck well. Very good at reading opposing shooters and where their hands are, and he's rarely cleanly beat. I don't know what else you want. I'm excited to get Wallstedt here. He's had a good season in Iowa. I think he struggled for a little bit, but then he found his game. It's kind of come around. So, Josh, are you ready for the Wild to have a Vezina Award winner? Can we start getting the Vezina Trophy ready for Wallstedt when he finally makes his debut with the Wild?
So Fleury's not going to win it this year, is what you're saying?
I don't think so. Flower won it 2 years ago. I keep forgetting. Or is it 3 years ago, maybe?
Something like that. So when you read a scouting report like that, given your expertise as a goalie coach, what are your takeaways? Is this exactly what you want to see on a scouting report?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is there's very few negatives. The one thing he kind of mentioned, and this is so nitpicky, he says he's kind of heavy over his feet, which a little bit positionally, he might not look like your typical goalie. He might be looking a little weird. But he's still got everything you want. Quick, compact, on shots, reading hands. A lot of this stuff, and if you get down to it, a lot of it's with his vision. And I don't know, I'll go on a tangent. But kids, if you're goalies or your parents and you're listening to this, you want to do something for your kid that doesn't involve wrecking their hips by having them do goalie training all summer. Get them vision training. Guarantee you'll pay off in spades. Vision training is something a lot of people forget about or don't do. And you talk to NHL goalies, they all do vision training all the time. It's one of those things. It doesn't hurt your body, and it makes you a better goalie.
And watching that Netflix show on the F1, like what is F1 Drive to Survive, that docuseries they do, all the F1 drivers do vision training too, which you could see how that would translate to that as well. Last question on Wallstedt. Have you ever seen him play yet?
I've seen highlights. I mean,
what stands out to you in the highlights?
He's a big dude. That's what stands out to me. Big dude, makes saves, doesn't. I don't see him get out of position a lot, which I like. So, well, actually seeing Fleury get out of position all the time. Anyone that stays in the net, I'm all for it. But yeah, it's just, he seems like he's got the whole package. Now, I haven't watched a whole game of him, and obviously it's curated selection of saves that I'm watching, but all signs point to him being great. And going back to that, you're talking about the F1 guys and vision. I'll tell you, there's a concept that we look at with goalies, and it started in cricket. Some doctors, very smart guys, did some research. I think I've talked about this before. It's called the quiet eye, is what they call it. Basically, goalies, they don't see the puck move from the stick into like their glove. It moves too fast. What they do is their eyes basically take everything, and the brain processes it so quick. They can look at body position, stick handling, where the guy's shooting, angle of shot, and it all just goes into their brain and they tells their body where to make the save. It's really interesting concept. So that's why more vision training for you kids.
You know what's fascinating about that? And why not make everything about Connor Bedard? But I was watching kind of a breakdown on him. And I'm sure you've seen this too, where they say one of the biggest things about this kid is how he gets off these, like the shot angles he gets off, or like his body positioning, or he's off one foot off the other foot, and how goalies can't tell what he's doing.
Yeah.
Because he has all these unorthodox shot positions or angles or weight distribution, however you want to put it, like you said, and that's part of the reason why he beats so many goalies.
Yep, that exactly. And I tell people, if you want your kid to score a lot of goals, teach them how to shoot moving their feet. It's really hard to do, but if you're moving your feet and a goalie can't tell when you're going to shoot, you will score a lot more goals. That was number one prospect. Number two, Yaroslav Askarov, 20-year-old Nashville Predator draft pick. He was the number 11th pick in 2020, and he was also at the same position on the last time they did this list, number 2. So I'm kind of read the little Wheeler spiel on him. Askarov's raw talent certainly makes him unique. His ability to change directions in the net, stay on top of shooters, track their hands, make reactionary saves is elite. His athleticism is too. Regularly makes second and third chance saves, holding firm in his positioning, even when he's laying on the ice, which is a very interesting way to put that. But there are tools in the game that still need some refinement. He can look jittery in net, bouncing on his toes and moving to pucks. His agility and reads are so impressive, though, that he can steal games when he has to, makes difficult saves that others just can't get to. There isn't a goalie prospect in the world with quicker feet through shuffles or more explosiveness side to side or low to high than Askarov. So that's kind of a little breakdown. When he talks about the jitteriness, like when you see goalies move, you don't want to see them bounce or go up and down because that just takes away from their speed. I read another interview where Askarov was saying that's something he does intentionally because it helps him focus on a shot. Don't ask me how. I don't know why or how it helps him, but he's figured it out. And obviously, I don't think it's hurting him that much being an NHL draft pick and probably a goalie at some point in the future in the NHL. So that's all right. That was number 2, Askarov. Number 3 is a guy I've heard about actually quite a bit. And I actually root for this guy because he's small. Dustin Wolf, Calgary Flames draft pick. He was the number 214th pick, it looks like, in the 2019 draft. He has went up one spot from last time they did this ranking. He was number 4, now he's number 3. Again, possesses elite footwork and tracking, never loses sight of the puck, and anticipates the movements of opposing carriers very well, making him extremely hard to beat with a deke. You rarely see a player beat him side to side on a breakaway because he can stick on top of him. Athletic, superb positional goalie, technical ability is refined. Wolf has everything you look for in a top goalie prospect today, except for the size. All right, his size, 6 feet. That's it. It's considered small now. And It's crazy to me, but I will always root for, now I'm going to air quote this, small goalies at 6 feet, but it's kind of crazy. It's 6'2", 6'3" is where you have to be usually. Obviously, there's some outliers where these smaller guys, these, again, small in air quotes, 6 foot guys. So that's Dustin Wolf. I
have a comment going back to our number 2 guy. I should have mentioned a minute ago, the Yaroslav Askarov. He was the number 11 pick in the draft in 2020. That's pretty high for a goalie, huh?
It definitely seems high. I think, what was Wallstat? I got that right here.
20.
He was number 20. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was number 11. I can look it up while we're talking.
Okay.
Just to make sure I'm not going crazy. Yes, he was the number 11th overall draft pick.
You're not drafting a goalie at 11 unless you're thinking he's like going to be your Pekka if you're the Predators, like in that case, right?
Oh, for sure. Number 4, Devin Levi, 21 years old, Buffalo Sabres. All right, this guy, another pick looks like in the 200s, and he has actually jumped up one spot from when they did this last time. So if I've heard of Devin Levi. I don't know if you have, Josh, but he plays collegiately at Northeastern. And I know him because last year he won the award for the top college goalie with a record of 21 wins, 10 losses, and 1 tie, 1.54 goals against. And now here's the crazy one, 0.952 save percentage and 10 shutouts over 32 games. So that was last year. How did
he lose 10 games?
I know. Isn't that crazy? It's Northeastern.
He must stink.
And the thing is, this year, Now, he had a down year, but he still had pretty good numbers. 17 wins, 12 losses, 5 ties with those are probably overtime losses. 2.24 goals against average and a .933 save percentage and 6 shutouts in 34 games played. So Levi, I've known him from being a college goalie, but another small goalie at 6 feet. And what Wheeler said about him has impressive control on his outside edges and the patience to hold them, quick feet on his shuffle so he can stick with dekes and go post to post or low to high to get to tough pucks. Perfect reads on shooters, excellent tracking through and under traffic, and a battler's mentality in the net, which keeps him in plays even when he looks like he's down and out on his knees. I'll tell you what, that's one of the things, it's one of those things you really can't teach. You can tell a goalie, you got to do everything to make the save, but some goalies just have it where they will do anything, like their life depends on it to stop that puck, even if they're so far away that them just throwing the end of their stick to get a puck is what they do. So that's something I always look for in like the high school goalies that I work with.
This guy's a Sabres prospect, huh?
Yep. So do you think?
Can you imagine if the Sabres had a good goalie?
Yeah, this is that crazy.
Should be music to the ears of all the Sabres fans out there. Well, he's pretty young, so when you're 21, you're probably 2-3 years away from
who knows? I mean, we always say our stats prove it. Goalies usually get to the NHL later in their career. However, you have exceptions. You have your Ottingers. You have guys that come in earlier, but it's usually a longer development for a goalie to get into the NHL. Number 5, and the last one we'll go over in depth, Sebastian, I think it's Cossa, Cossa, Detroit Red Wings. He's a 20-year-old, number 15 draft pick in 2021. This guy's dropped a couple spots since they did the rankings last time. So Cossa is, I always think of big guys like Ben Bishop. Cossa is huge, 6'6", powerful, athletic goalie, fiery, confident, talkative competitor who doesn't like to get beat and wants to command the net and the room. I love it. That's what I want in my goalies. Bigger goalies often struggle with their movements and their recoveries, but neither is an issue for Cossa. His positioning and reflexes help him block and grab a lot of pucks, but its ability to bounce back into his stance or change directions with passes that separates him. His power through his pushes gives him rare side-to-side ability for his goalie size too. Again, this is all quotes from Wheeler. Has shown issues with closing his 5-hole, which I will say right now, that's one of the issues you get when you're 6'6". And he has a tendency to lose himself in the net on scramble plays. And this is a kind of a byproduct of being a really good, strong skater and having strong pushes. When you move laterally, sometimes you can go so hard that you get off your lines. You can't stop yourself quick enough to stay on angle. And that's especially when you're 6'6", you got those huge legs. And he can get pulled out of his net too, overcommitting on dekes. So that's kind of the knock on him. But again, big dude. Ben Bishop size. I think Bishop was 6'8". I think he's the biggest one that there's been, if I remember right. But yeah.
Well, the 5-hole is basically a triangle, right? And if the longer your legs are, the bigger the triangle, the bigger the 5-hole.
Yep, and harder to close it. But these guys are so athletic, they usually find a way. So that's our 5 top goalie prospects. Write the names down, remember them, put them in your memory bank. You'll probably see these guys eventually at some point. There is 5 more goalies on the list, but I don't think we need to go that long into them. I'll just read their names really quick. Lukas Dostal for the Ducks. Pyotr Kochetkov. Obviously, we've talked about him with the Hurricanes. Akira Schmid with the Devils. Samuel, I think it's Urson with the Flyers. And Drew Commesso. Oh, boy. Commesso. So I'll say Commesso. Blackhawks. Mm-hmm. So if you want to read up on them, obviously, if you have an athletic subscription, go read about them. But again, a lot of good information. Get excited for Jesper Wallstedt to win the Vezina Trophy. That's what I take away from this whole article.
That was a great breakdown. Here's my big takeaway. When I look at the bottom or the next 5 through 10 or 6 through 10, whatever it is, and you have Lukas Dostal, who's already in the NHL and has young guns, Pyotr Kochetkov, who we've talked about a lot and who's played very well, Akira Schmid, who's played good this year for the Devils. And you think of some of these names that were pretty new to me, like Sebastian Cossa, Devin Levi, Dustin Wolf, and Yaroslav Askarov. So what Wheeler's saying is all these guys are ahead of the 3 that we're more familiar with, or maybe ahead is the bad term, but better prospects. So just like you said, Troy, I think it is worth kind of writing down, making a note of these guys and maybe following them a little bit as you're sort of planning who to chase when they eventually make it to the NHL consistently and then their young guns comes out. So great breakdown. Okay, we're going to do our PWCC Weekly Hockey Preview. Each week, we take a look at our favorite hockey cards in the PWCC Weekly Auction. PWCC, of course, is a Gongshow partner and sponsor, and we'd like to thank them for helping to make our show possible. They just had an announcement yesterday, I think it was, and I did send it to you, Troy, where they're creating a breaker network, I think. They're going to start to work with selected breakers, where a given breaker, if part of that network, will be able to submit cards right to the PWCC vault after pulling them out of packs. So that's kind of cool. Be interested to get more details on how that'll work and who the breakers are that they're working with, if anyone in hockey even. Just shows there's so much innovation that's continuing to happen in this hobby, not just from PWCC, of course, but from other companies as well. And every day, like, some new wrinkle seems to come out.
And when they didn't announce very many specifics, right? It was kind of a really high level overview, because I started asking questions. I'm like, well, does it cost money if I want to send it to the vault after I break and all this stuff? But I don't think they released any of that.
Not yet, but we'll keep everyone tuned. Getting back to the weekly auction, pretty big week for hockey cards. There's normally around a couple hundred a week. This week, it's 461 in the auction. Before
you go into that, a couple of these, I don't even know if you can call them hockey cards. There's like autographed index cards.
I saw that of like Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah, it's like, did someone just walk up with a 3x5? And it's like, okay, on one side, I was doing my notes for my exam, but on this other side, can you please sign this?
The grocery list is on one side, or the chili recipe. Yeah. And then the other side is Wayne Gretzky's autograph. True. Good point. Noted.
There's not a lot. I mean, there's not like 100 of them. There's like, I don't know, 3 or 5 or something.
So like we always do, we'll share our favorite vintage and modern cards. And then we'll also highlight these on the weekly live show that we do with Jeremy Lee on his YouTube channel, Sports Card Live, on Sunday nights starting at 8:30, where we cover the end of the weekly auction from a hockey perspective. Okay, so I'm going to start first on the vintage side. These are the two cards that really stood out to me, and then we'll get your card, Troy. The first one is a 1962 Parkhurst John Beliveau PSA 10, Pop 5 out of 296 graded.
Yikes.
It's not a rookie. 1953 is his rookie, so it'd be year 9. But, Troy, you don't often see hockey cards from legendary Hall of Fame players that are 61 years old and PSA 10 condition from that area. So that immediately kind of sucked me in to the card and wanting to check it out and learn more about it. It's a really interesting card with a very 1960s feel. You should go to the PWCCmarketplace.com, check it out in the weekly auction. And what really stands out to me is the background. It's got like, it's kind of like a dot matrix, but the dots are gradients. So they're heaviest on top and they get lighter as you go down the card. And then in the upper left corner of the background, there's a big block M, and there's like Montreal written in the M. Like I said, it's very like 60s. And I like cards that kind of have the vibe of the era that they're from. Beyond that, of course, it's a John Beliveau card. So one of the greatest hockey players of all time. We've talked about him before. I'll do a little bit of a recap just to refresh anyone that may not have listened to us previously or forgotten. We never get mad at people for forgetting stuff, right? Do we?
No, we can never get mad at anyone for forgetting stuff, because we are the number one offenders of forgetting everything.
True that, brother. Okay, so Beliveau is a 17-time Stanley Cup champion, all with the Canadiens, 10 times as a player, 7 times as an executive. He owns a lot of real estate on the Stanley Cup. That is for darn sure. Beyond that, he's a 2 times Hart Trophy winner, an Art Ross Trophy winner. He was the inaugural Conn Smythe Trophy winner. He had 512 career goals and 1,219 career points. Member of the Hall of Fame, of course. Amazing player. Played for an Original 6 franchise. Really cool card. PSA 10, which is nuts. I just think a really kind of neat card in the auction. From a comp and sales perspective, the last 1962 Parkhurst Beliveau PSA 10 to sell was in the PWCC Weekly a few years ago now, in January 2019. Went for $931 US. All-time high for the card is $1,855 from April 2015. Troy, do you happen to have this up and what the current bid is?
$1,250 US.
Pretty strong for this point of the week, so we could maybe have a high sale here. Next one that I picked was a 1960 Topps Stan Mikita PSA 8. It's a Pop 57 out of 351 total graded. There's 3 PSA 9s and 0 PSA 10s. So there's only 3 cards graded higher. It is Mikita's rookie card. Really wild card almost. Very like Andy Warhol-ish. Talk about like 60s vibe. I know Warhol was 80s, but I don't know, man. It just, to me, it's a kind of like, it's got 4 quadrants and they all have different colors in the back of it. Very cool, very clean. The bright white is still white. It has a brilliant kind of sheen or color on the card stock. I just really like this card. I also, and I wanted to ask you this, Troy, too, is I don't think we've talked about Mikita much to this point. Have we?
No, we have not. I'm not even sure we've brought him up, but maybe just in passing.
And that was another reason why I picked it, because I thought it was an opportunity for us to chat about him a little bit. He, of course, is the Chicago Blackhawks legendary center. He played 22 seasons, all with the Blackhawks, which is pretty awesome. Scored 541 career goals, had 1,467 career points, 2-time Hart Trophy winner, 4-time Art Ross Trophy winner, first Slovak-born player to win the Stanley Cup in 1961. It was his only cup with the Blackhawks. First player in the NHL to wear a helmet full-time, Troy. After, don't get this, after an errant shot tore off a piece of his ear. That was stitched back on, though. Of course, member of the Hockey Hall of Fame. Last sale for a 1960 Topps Stan Mikita PSA 8 was January 10th of last year, so in 2022, for $2,500 US. All-time high is $3,439. That was set in January of 2021. So that context, what do we got for a current bid?
$1,050 US.
Again, I think pretty strong for this point in the auction. So those are my two vintage cards. Which one stood out to you?
I think while I was looking at them while you were reading them off, and I do like that Stan Mikita one. I think that's kind of crazy. And we should have a fun fact on him. If you've seen the movie Wayne's World, there's the Stan Mikita donut shop. That's what I remember. A lot of Stan Mikita.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. I had to look it up because I'm like in my head, I was like, I think he was in Wayne. Like there was some reference to him in Wayne's World. That's what it is. But yeah, even though the PSA 10 is fantastic, I don't know. Sometimes those Parkhurst old cards and PSA 10s, I am getting to the point where I like seeing. I know that it's old when you see kind of some rounding edges aren't the greatest. I don't know. It's really clean. It looks great. It will go for probably a lot of money. But I think I'm leaning toward the Mikita. I kind of like the vibe that card's putting out.
You're stuck in the old school, man.
I can't help myself. So I'll say the card first. The 1910 C56 hockey Skinner Poulin PSA 3.5. All right, I'm just going to say it again. My love affair with super old vintage hockey cards has continued. And when I saw this card, I kind of sorted by oldest to newest, and then I did highest to lowest by price. And this one was a little bit, it was up there when I was looking at it. But again, the name Skinner Poulin, I'm like, man, I've never heard of this guy. So I started to just look him up real quick, and I saw he played for Montreal, and I'm like, boom, it kind of piqued my interest about him. So I'm like, this is my card right here. I love these old, like the old Parkhurst, but I'm really liking these old C55, C66 cards. I think they just look great. And the little tobacco cards, we've talked about that before. But looking at the card itself, so start with the condition of the card. Graded a PSA 3.5, which has a pop of 2. Now, there are 90 graded copies of this card. I think we talked about that before, where that seems like a lot for a 1910 card. 40 Definitely. Are graded higher than this card. So just let you know that the highest PSA grade is a PSA 7. There's no 8, 9s, or 10s. But this one's a 3.5, so I don't know what you say. It's right in the middle, I guess. But for being a PSA 3.5 and from 1910, if you go to the website on PWCC, click on the card, zoom in, it looks really good. Obviously, it has some wear that you would kind of expect. It's got some rounding corners. It's a little off center. I don't know what you call it. I call it speckling, where you see like maybe a chip where the colors kind of faded a little bit. But the overall color of the card looks good. It's just a pose of him sitting there. It's got this old jersey with the C in the middle. It's blue. You can tell they didn't have a lot of design. I don't know what you want to call it, a design aesthetics, because like there's like a white line running right through the middle of the C, unless that means something that I don't know. But again, I would expect imperfections from a 1910 card. And to me, it just adds to it. It adds to the history, helps tell a story. I'm really getting into that. So that's why I chose kind of this card. And then Skinner Poulin, I had to do a little research on him because I didn't know who he was. So his full name, Josh, is George Vincent Poulin. And then in quotes, they say George Vincent Skinner Poulin. Played for the Montreal Canadiens in the National Hockey Association and the Victoria Aristocrats. I love it. In the Pacific Coast Hockey Association. He was a member of the original Montreal Canadiens team in the 1909-10 season, and he played in the team's first game on January 5th, 1910.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, won a Stanley Cup with Montreal in 1916, was only 5'6", but was a very physical player. When he played for the Victoria Aristocrats, he was often referred to as the Pepper Box, in reference to his aggressive and peppery playing style. Again, this is from Wikipedia, so...
What a dorky nickname.
Oh, I love it, the Pepper Box.
Here comes Pepper Box. So 5'6", he was like the Max Domi of...
Yeah, he was a tiny guy. Very tiny guy. And here we go. So when the PCHA, prior to the 1914-15 season, put in a rule change that would prevent body checking from within 10 feet of the fence, is how they put it, Poulin voiced his displeasure and claimed that ice hockey was the only sport where a small man like himself could use his body to his advantage. So he was very angry, did not like this rule change. Poulin was also known as the bad man of the PCHA when he led the league in penalty minutes for 2 consecutive seasons. He could be the little ball of hate, like Marchand. Him and Marchand have a little connection there. Between his time in the PCHA and the NHA, Poulin had 47 goals, 16 assists for 63 points in 116 games played. Should be noted, he also had 362 penalty minutes in those 116 games played.
Wow.
So average penalty a game, basically. Great history of the player. Great card. I did some research on some past sales. I found an SGC 1.5 sold for $516 on September 11th of 2022 via the PWCC weekly auction. And then I was able to find a PSA 3 sold for $676.77. These are all US dollars. On June 20th, 2022 via eBay. And it was paid for via Terra Peak. So great card. Right now, current bid, again, this is a PSA 3.5, is $240 US dollars.
These are cards that really appeal, especially that look good to set builders, because I think there's lots of people that collect those sets. And even if, pick a nickname, Pepperbox Poulin or Skinner Poulin was not the greatest player of all time, a very interesting player from what you shared.
Oh, yeah.
This card will have a lot of appeal because those people that want to maybe either get that card to complete their set, or once they have it, try to maybe upgrade.
And the Montreal, like if you're trying to collect guys that played on the first season of the Montreal Canadiens, Les Canadiens.
Okay, we're going to switch to the modern side. My first pick is a 2014 Upper Deck Leon Draisaitl Young Guns Canvas BGS 10 Pristine Pop 83. I'm going to go off about Leon in a little bit here, but 27.9% of graded copies are BGS 10, which I think is crazy, pretty high.
Wow.
There's also 14 BGS 10 Pristine Black Label copies too. So I think it's a good reminder that just because a card's a BGS 10, don't assume it's like a Pop 5. You got to do your homework and look up the Pop reports, but still, pretty tough to find, both Pop 83. I love this card so much, just the look of it. Are you on the PWCC website, Troy? Are you looking at it right now? Isn't it awesome? Like one of the best photographs you've seen in a...
Yeah, it almost looks like, I don't know if that's what they were going for, but it's almost like an aura of smoke around them, but it might be just the lighting or how they did the picture, or maybe during introductions. But yeah, it's a very cool picture, very somber. I don't know, it just looks like he's thinking about life, basically.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of canvas cards, too, so given the BGS 10, the awesome photo, that it's a canvas card, it's kind of a no-brainer for me. You get the prestige, of course, of having that BGS 10 grade with the card. And just in general, Draisaitl's been amazing. The 27-year-old German forward I think he's doing okay this year. He's got 100 points on the season.
Just okay. He's doing just okay.
Just okay. Well, hold on. Let me check the supercomputer, see what that says. Yep. Supercomputer says he's good. So we'll go with that. From a comp perspective, last sale on this card was this past April for $1,982 US dollars, which was also the all-time high. In case you're wondering, this is the one teeny tiny step down from a BGS 10 Black Label, where a card is a Black Label when all 4 subgrades are 10. High sale there is $8,300 US dollars in December 21. Ooh. It's kind of crazy. But getting back to this BGS 10, what's the current bid?
$110 US dollars.
Holy cow.
Well, I was questioning myself when I was looking at the value. I'm like, look, did I look up the wrong card? But this is it.
That is a steal. So I'm sure it'll go up. Next one I picked is, I think, a really interesting card. We don't talk about buybacks a lot, but it's a 2015 Upper Deck buyback, Wayne Gretzky auto. And the card is a 2013 SP Game Used. I think it's a base card. It's numbered out of 2, and it's a PSA 9 with a 9 auto grade. So we'll start with the fact that it's a Wayne Gretzky auto out of 2. That makes a card, any card, pretty special at that point. The other thing I love about this card, Troy, is it's hand numbered. I don't know about you, but I'm a sucker for hand numbered cards. I love that feature. Does that mean anything to you, or are you like, whatever?
No, I think it's pretty cool as long as the player did it. I can't talk. I'm always nervous. It was like the player signed and then passed it off to the upper deck. I don't know why it matters to me like that. Like that's the thing I'm hung up on. But I'll just assume it's always the player, but it probably isn't. I don't know. I shouldn't say I don't know. Next time we have Billy or Tony on, we will ask.
We'll have to ask them. Like I said a minute ago, it's basically a 2013 SP Game Use base card. That almost makes it perfect because the SP base cards are generally really clean and minimalist, so it gives it a lot of room on the card for an auto. It's Wayne in a king sweater too, which I don't mind. It kind of fits the motif of the card. It's like a white card with a little bit of silver and black in it, so it's that. You got the double Jofa. He's got the Jofa helmet and gloves, so I'm in automatically there. Love me some Jofa. Now, I actually want you, Troy, to take a look because I'm a little confused why the auto is a 9 grade. I think there's a little bit of a light streak. So Wayne elongates the Y at the end of his name. That's like the only thing I can find. But I sort of feel like PSA, and again, I'm not an auto grader, but they're being a little bit picky in grading this. It just doesn't bother me in the slightest, and I really wouldn't care that the auto was a 9. Do you see anything that I'm missing, or do you think that it's the Y?
No, it probably is that. When I first saw the card and then I looked at the grade, I kind of stared at the auto, but I think that's probably why it did get that.
I don't know. Do you like this card? What do you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably not one I would ever bid on, but I do like actually Gretzky and Kings uniforms because I think it's a pretty important time in the game of hockey where the biggest player got traded to LA and kind of grew the game in the southern United States. So I think there's some history to it. I'm not sure I'm the biggest. I do like the Jofa, but I don't know if I'm the biggest fan of the picture itself, like the positioning. But
it's a little hunched over.
Yeah, he's got the Titan stick. I loved when Gretzky had the Titan wood stick. Just awesome. So I do like the equipment. But yeah, probably not something I'm going to bid on, but it definitely is a cool card. Plus 2 out of 2.
From a comp perspective, this exact card sold raw this past summer in June for $480 US. So it looks like somebody bought it and graded it. I'm sure they're bummed about the 9 auto grade. We can tell because it's an out of 2 card and both copies were 2 out of 2. What's the current bid right now?
$105 US.
So pretty low. All right. Well, those are my modern cards. Ooh, I'm excited about the one you picked, Troy.
I don't know what's going to happen.
I'm not surprised.
Am I going to get so much feedback on, what are you doing? Okay. I had to go for it. I saw it and I've talked about her before. Yes. I was the kid when I was at that age to have posters on the wall. I had a Manon Rayon poster. Yes. And I still have it, actually. I found it the other day, not the other day, but like a couple months ago. I was going through, like my parents brought some stuff over and it was in there. But the card I've picked, and I guess I'm going to call this modern, 1993 Sports Illustrated for Kids, Series 2, Manon Rayon, number 191. It's graded a BGS 8.5. So I think, to me, that sounds high for a Sports Illustrated for Kids card.
I've never understood how they grade the edges of those
I think
cards.
They just guess. They're just like, this one, it looks okay. All right, here we go. So, Josh, obviously you knew I was going to select this one probably when you saw it. You're like, oh, that's Troy. Yep. And just so everyone knows, guess who just got added to a signer at the Toronto Sport Card Expo in April? Manon Rayon was going to be their signing. Josh, should I bring the poster?
Well, you could do that, or you could... Well, we need to talk about this right now because
on-air production meeting.
I've got on-air production meeting. I was going through a box of hockey cards, and I have like 200 in really good shape Riom cards. So you could easily take one of those or your poster, or both. And remember, my 17-year-old son's coming with us, so we can stick him in line.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
To wait for that. So I think, Troy, you need to buy your ticket and get it done.
All right. And payment for your son will be like a hot dog or something. Whatever. We'll give him a slice of pizza.
You'll get nothing like it.
Yeah. It's funny. I got to look. I'm pretty sure I have some Rayon. I know I had Rayon cards when I was a kid. I remember I had them. I don't know if I have them at my house now or my parents still have them.
But I have a lot of them.
Yeah,
so
I'll definitely
I got you.
All right, cool. All right, so let's look at the card first. Let's look at Sports Illustrated for Kid cards. The color on this thing it's a fever dream. It's got like a blue and purplish border. Looks crazy, but I love the actual image on it. I love like the photo and the old, like we talk about this all the time. I love the old equipment. She's got the Vaughn pads, glove and blocker, and then the I'm going to say it wrong. Victoriaville stick. Like, you just don't see those anymore. I love that when they're just these old, and it says, huge letters says Vic on the fat part of the goalie stick. I love the actual image. And remember, these are the Sports Illustrated for Kids cards. So on the edges, you're going to have these little perforations because these came in a page basically of 9 cards, and kids would rip them out. And I remember, I had a ton of these. And of course, they probably ended up in the trash. Because I remember I subscribed to Sports Illustrated for Kids when I was that age, I don't know, 10 to 14 or something. But I'm just curious. I always think about these cards, and I wonder how many of these ended up in the trash. Just all these. It's crazy that these are actual like collected cards now. Some of them go for a lot of money, like Tony Hawk, and I know like that's his like rookie card.
Like the early Jordan ones or Kobe rookie, they go for huge dough, especially if they grade well, which gets us back to how do they possibly grade these?
How do they even grade these things? Yeah. So this BGS 8.5 has a pop of 1 with none graded higher. And just if you don't know who Manon Rhéaume is, she's the first woman to play in an NHL hockey game, which also made her the first woman to play in any of the major professional North American sport leagues. Now, remember, the game she played in, it was one period of an exhibition game. So she didn't play in like an NHL regular season game. It was an exhibition game, but first woman to play in an NHL game, which is really, really cool. She also played for the Atlanta Knights of the IHL and became the first woman to appear in a regular season professional hockey game. So that is she's still currently active in hockey. She works for the LA Kings. She's a hockey operations and prospects advisor. She's really pretty active on, I think, social media and stuff. And I think she might be on TV I thought I saw her for something. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, still pretty relevant. I love this card. I'm definitely bidding on it. Probably just bid myself up because someone's going to bid on it too now that I've mentioned it. But great card. Josh, do I buy this card and crack it and have her sign it?
Wow, it would be maybe you should, dude. She has aged well too. Is that fair to say?
Oh, geez, you went there. Okay. Well, young Troy did have I loved it that she was attractive as a kid when I had the poster on the wall.
Okay. You got to get it signed. We're going to make that happen.
All
we'll
right,
take some videos.
We'll get it
for social media. Be sure to check out the entire PWCC auction at PWCCmarketplace.com.
I didn't give the current bid.
Oh, yeah.
Current bid is $8 US.
You got to get all in on that, dude. So go to PWCCmarketplace.com, bid on every card but the Mayon Rhéaume for Troy, so he gets it. Sorry if you're the seller. We're going to have to play it that way. Jumping over to hobby news. Kind of a bummer injury update to start with. The Carolina young forward, Andreas Svechnikov, will miss the remainder of the season with ACL injury. I think he is going to have or just had surgery. Still only 22 years old, Troy. On the season, he had 23 goals, 32 assists for 55 points. Was pacing kind of right around last year's point total, where he had 30 goals, 39 assists for 69 points in 78 games played. Kind of didn't take the jump this year that maybe many people thought. And it was a little weird, too, because Carolina's played so well. Maybe you would have expected he would have taken a bigger jump, but big disappointment regardless, because it hurt their team, obviously, in their quest to chase a cup. Hockey card-wise, Svechnikov is a 2018 young gun. His PSA 10 pop 967, has a 69% gem rate. Last sold for 105 US, down about 33% in the past 6 months. So we'll see how low it goes now that he's hurt. If you're still a believer from an investment standpoint or a Canes collector, you PC Svechnikov, I'm wondering if it'll get to maybe like the 70-80 US range this summer. It might be a good pickup opportunity then. Next guy we're back on the Ovi injury watch, I guess. Well, he missed last time because of the death of his father. He did miss the big game Tuesday night, which would have been last night for us, in New York City, where they did the integration between the cartoon Big City Greens. More on that in a minute. Looks like a lower body injury, seems day to day. One to keep an eye on. I think Laviolette was asked, and he's like, I don't know when he's going to play again. So they're downplaying it. Like it's more out of like an abundance of precaution, but we'll see. Now, I know your kid had a game last night, but did you hear or did you get to watch any of the ESPN, NHL, Disney collaboration with Big City Greens and the Rangers and Capitals game last night?
I saw literally 2 minutes of it. I didn't even realize what I was looking at until something triggered in my head that you sent me that note that this Big City Greens collaboration was going on. And then I realized what it was, but I only saw it for like a minute or two because he had a game And then we had to go get the team ready because I was coaching.
My kids are a little out of the age window. I have a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old. But my 14-year-old daughter said that a lot of kids love that cartoon.
I remember my son watched an episode once, and I was actually laughing. That was pretty funny.
So basically, they simulcast the game as a cartoon. So you could watch the regular game on ESPN. And then apparently they put tracking devices in the equipment of the players. So with the 16-second delay on ESPN Plus or Disney Channel or Disney Plus, you could basically watch the game as a cartoon exactly as it's being played in real life. And then for the studio crew and hosts and commentators, they put them in, what do they call those, motion capture suits, so that they were cartoon characters on the broadcast as well, but moving as they do in real life. And watched about a period, maybe between a half a period and a period. And it's kind of neat, I guess. The whole thing is a little bit strange to me. I don't really understand the point, maybe. I guess I have two thoughts. It's like, number one, I'm open to anything that potentially exposes the game of hockey to new people. So I don't want to bash it from that perspective. It just seems like kind of a weird.
Well, yeah, if it's probably the draw was to get kids in, and we get kids watching hockey. Hopefully that translates to hockey cards. And also, I'm just waiting for the hockey cards that come out of this thing. You could have a dual, whoever the player is, and then along with it, next to him would be his, whatever his avatar was during the game. I think that'd be pretty cool. And again, those cards could be straight for kids. They could be, maybe they're the free hockey day cards they give away. I don't think they'll be a huge collectible.
I buy that. And then the second thing I think about is how unlucky has the NHL been in the past month with Ovi? He missed, for very good reasons, the Stadium Series game, and now he misses this game.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, man, he's the big star that they keep wanting to feature in these opportunities, and he just hasn't been available. All right, moving on to 3 stars of the week for last week, Troy. Third star of the week was Mitch Marner from the Toronto Maple Leafs, had 2 goals, 4 assists, and 2 games played. Not too bad. Second star was Sidney Crosby with 2 goals, 5 assists, and 4 games played. And the first star, Clayton Keller.
Yotes.
In 4 games played, at 4 goals and 5 assists. How many times do you think a Coyote player has been named the NHL's first star of the week?
I know Clayton Keller was named. I know he was a star earlier in February, I think. But I can't remember.
He's having a good year.
Yeah, he's having a really good year. I can't remember if he was a first star, though. I'm guessing there's been some. I just can't remember off the top of my head. Because why would I remember that?
So for our last little mini segment in hobby news, I need to hop on a soapbox for a few minutes. Are you okay with that?
Go for it.
I'm a little worked up about this, Troy. Leon Draisaitl, second player this year to reach 100 points for the season. The 27-year-old Oilers forward is up to 44 goals, 56 assists, gives him even 100 points in 66 games played. Pacing for 120 points or more for the year. It's his 4th season now with 100 points or more. He had 105 in 2018, 110 in 2019, 110 last season. And so he's pacing right now for a career high. I'm going to make the argument that this dude is, and we try so hard not to use this word, underrated, undervalued.
Underappreciated.
That's not strong enough.
Yeah.
And so I'm now going to go through and at the end of this, I want you to tell me how I'm wrong. Okay. And anyone out there, please message me. Tell me how I'm wrong. We'll start with his career. So career-wise, in 624 games played, Draisaitl has 298 goals, 418 assists. He averages 0.48 goals per game and 1.5 points per game over his career. At the way he's pacing, he should be a 600-plus NHL goal scorer when he's all said and done. Pretty dang good. Let's look at the past 5 years. So we'll take 5 full seasons. Draisaitl is second in scoring, Troy, with 509 points, only behind McDavid, who has 570. Look at the third place guy, though. McKinnon is third with 426 points. So Draisaitl has 83 points more than the third place guy in the last 5 years. Here's where it gets nuts to me, and here's where the big disconnect on Draisaitl really, I just don't understand. In the last 5 years, Troy, he's first in the NHL in goals, 223 goals. Nobody has scored more goals in the entire league than Leon Draisaitl. This is a hobby that's driven by goal scorers. And it's not 1 year, it's not a week, it's not a month, it's 5 full years. He has 223 goals. That's 7 more than Austin Matthews, 14 more than Ovechkin, and 15 more than McDavid. He's number 1 in power play goals over the last 5 years with 98. He's tied with McDavid for game-winning goals over the last 5 for number 1 with 44. In the last 5 years, Troy, he's averaged 45 goals a year. But I'll keep going.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the most common knocks on Draisaitl? Okay, there's 2 that I can think of that come up all the time. when you try to say my boy Leon deserves more hobby love, the first thing that you hear is he would never have the stats he does without McDavid. It's so hard to. There's no way to refute that, really. And yes, he benefits from having McDavid on his team. Patrick Kane benefits from having Jonathan Toews on his team. Guess what? Connor McDavid probably owes a lot of his stats to Leon Draisaitl too. So it's a pendulum that swings both ways. One little nugget I did find, though, in his last 10 games without McDavid, where McDavid's missed time, Draisaitl has 7 goals, 9 assists for 16 points in 10 games. So it's not like he becomes, I don't know, Sam Steele when Leon Draisaitl or when McDavid's not on the ice. The other comparison that's always made is, well, he's like Malkin, right? He's the new Evgeny Malkin. So let's go back to the last 5 years again. Draisaitl has 223 goals in the last 5 years and 509 points. Malkin has 98 goals and 288 points. So how is he like Malkin? I'd say he's been significantly better over a last 5-year span. Now, Malkin is 36, has played a lot longer, and over Malkin's career has 486 goals and 1,218 points in his 17 seasons, right?
Geez, we're going to have to do a segment like this on Malkin. Holy cow.
Yeah, 486 goals, 1,218 points. If you average out Draisaitl's production to year 17, because I think he's only played 8 years, Draisaitl's pacing for 652 goals and 1,564 points. Statistically, they're not even close to each other. They're just not. I know Malkin's won cups, and you can surely hold that over Draisaitl's head, but then you got to hold that over McDavid's head too, because McDavid and Draisaitl have the same amount of cups, and it doesn't seem to punish McDavid from a value perspective. The other guy that you'll hear Draisaitl compared to is Marner. Again, let's go back to the last 5 seasons. Marner has 121 goals and 410 points. Draisaitl, 223 goals, 509 points. And then last thing is he's got really cool hair, right? It's got to count for something. So help me understand why. Like when you go through, what am I missing? What am I not accounting for?
I was trying to think, is it something with playing in Edmonton? We've always said there's only room for 1 or 2 guys. Maybe in Edmonton, there's only room for 1 guy to get all the hobby love. He's not a personality at all. McDavid is starting to come out like his bubble. Like I've seen McDavid do a lot more interviews, but the thing about McDavid, he's very robotic. It's not like he impresses you with this great personality at all, but he's trying to get out there more, and maybe that hurts Draisaitl a little bit, that he's not out there all the time. I can't argue how he plays. I've said I've watched Draisaitl play full games, and really, like the games I watched this year, I have never seen a guy pass the puck better than Leon Draisaitl. He is an amazing player. I bet there is some of how he plays with McDavid, so let's hold that against him. You can't argue from the stats standpoint and his production.
And the thing that I go back to is he has the most goals of any player in the last 5 years.
Over McDavid.
How do you say over McDavid too? How do you say that he's just the sidekick?
Yeah, but he
is the sidekick.
Yeah, but he's also from Germany, right? He didn't come into the league like McDavid came in as being McJesus or whatever. The hype. Yeah. He's the next one or whatever. He'll kind of like Bedard's going to come in, get all this hype in the world. I don't remember Draisaitl having all this run up. It's probably just a lot of those little things have kind of worked against him in the hobby for the hobby love.
So I thought of, I think the best comparison to him today, maybe, and you'd had to be a kid of the 90s like us. And I know you watched hockey a little bit more than I did back then, but it's kind of a really fair comparison to Draisaitl Jágr. And not that they're the same player, but just kind of how Jágr was viewed in the context of Mario Lemieux.
Maybe, but I always knew Jágr was a superstar, though, and I don't know. I thought I would think Jágr was more popular than what. I don't know. I wasn't collecting cards then, so I'm not a. I mean, I did collect cards, but I had no clue the values as a kid what I was doing. But maybe, I mean, I could probably get on board a little bit, but I always thought to myself Jágr was just a superstar all the time. But it makes sense when you look at the comparison with Lemieux.
The reason why I think that makes sense to me is I just wonder if Draisaitl's like hobby status will grow when he's retired versus when he's playing, which I think kind of feels like Jágr's had. I feel like Jágr is more revered today than he was when he's playing, where like a guy that would be the opposite of that would be like Pavel Bure, right? Who was like everybody raved about him when he was playing. And not that he isn't considered a great player now, but doesn't come top of mind when you think of like legendary players, where Jágr's definitively on that list. So it's probably not a perfect comparison. But yeah, I just go back to the guy. Nobody has scored more goals than this guy in 5 years. So that's a definitive sample size where he is a great, great superstar player. And I don't know, I guess the hobby is just deciding to sleep on this guy a little bit. So reviewing some of his cards too, maybe for a little bit better context. Draisaitl, of course, is a 2014 Young Gun. His PSA 10 has popped 682, 61% gem rate. Last sold for $621 US in March. So it's not like it goes for nothing. It is up about 8% over the past month. But here's like where the comparisons kind of are funny, right? It's like, I would never say he's better than McDavid. He's not. But you look at McDavid's Young Gun value as PSA 10, it's currently about 3,500 with like a 2,500 pop. So it's 3,500 US dollars. So Draisaitl is 18% the value of McDavid. 18%.
I don't think he's 18% the player of McDavid.
No. Even Austin Matthews, right? Who's great. And his Young Gun PSA 10 current value is about 1,200 US. Draisaitl is about 50% the value. Now doing the Malkin comparison, Malkin right now is 424 US. So Draisaitl is about 50% higher than that. But in my most of humble opinions, of course, I just feel like this should be, and it's not, the market value is what it is. I get it. It should be $1,000 plus Young Gun Draisaitl. There's no, other than he just doesn't have the hype, there's no statistical justification for how it's not. Which, again, part of it is I find frustrating. The other part is kind of what makes this hobby awesome, and I love about it too, is that at some point there's just this magical element where people are either on the bandwagon or off it, and sometimes it's pretty hard to explain. If you're into Draisaitl, another option that I think is really cheap is his 2014 SP Authentic Future Watch Auto on a $999. You can get him raw for just under $2,000 right now. It is creeping up a little bit. And I think ultimately, Troy, I agree with you. I think what this situation shows is just how long a superstar shadow can be in the league. If he, and his buddy Connor McDavid can win a cup or two, it should enhance his legacy, I would think. Like, going back to the maybe my good or not so good Jágr comparison. But yeah, or maybe he'll be a guy who's kind of is more appreciated when he's done playing rather than when he is. It also kind of makes you think too, wherever Bedard lands, right? So if Bedard does land on Montreal, it's like, what does that do to Cole Caulfield's value? Mm-hmm. Right? Whoever he's going to be compared to is not going to look, and this is not only does Bedard have to land on a team with other good players, but also has to play well too.
And one thing, you might have mentioned it, but I just had to look it up because I was wondering if Draisaitl has won any MVP awards, and he did. He was the 2019-2020 Hart Trophy winner. So it's not like he hasn't won an MVP award.
Yeah, he's so good.
Well, I'm sticking on that Malkin.
He's just so good.
Malkin has 1,200 some points.
Yeah, I know. And again, and I wasn't comparing.
Yeah, I get it.
Draisaitl to Malkin in a way to trash Malkin, but just to say that it's hard. You can't even compare the two though, because from a stats perspective, Draisaitl's way ahead. So okay, off my soapbox. Now we got to get into new product releases. So it's been about a week since the release of 2021 Allure and everybody's favorite SP Signature Edition Legends. It's time for us to do our Gong Show value ratings. Remember, moving forward, we decided, I think on the show, that we're not only going to give an investor or ROI rating, we're also going to unveil our first ever collector ratings. Ooh, how exciting. So the first of these products, Troy, is the 2021-22 Allure. We've done comprehensive deep dives on these in our last couple, like when the checklist came out, we did our instant reaction. So I don't want to rehash all that, but maybe we'll give a couple of quick highlights. Part of that, what I mentioned on our last show is my thought was from a design perspective that Allure took a really nice step forward this year compared to 2020. Love the surprise Easter egg 16-bit cards that have been popping up. And I know I'm going to turn it over to you here because you're a big video game guy. That has to speak right to you.
Yeah, these are awesome. You sent me that, and then I went online and started finding them. I love those. Anything video game tie-ins, I love. I was a huge fan of those Topps Project 70 cards when they did the video game tie-ins. I have one that's Randy Johnson pitching, and it's made like a Nintendo game, Duck Hunt, where he's hit the duck, and it's like the bird that flew across, it's blown up. I don't know what the right word is. But yeah, these are great. I love them.
As of yesterday, I've seen 2 sales on those, Troy. There's a Pasternak one that went for 185 US, and then an Alexander Barkov that sold for 91. So they're going to have value. Hopefully, only more and more mystique.
And I wonder how, because the quote I saw on Cardboard Connection is, they're unannounced per Upper Deck. These are super rare. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah. From a general stats perspective, there's been a decent amount of secondary market sales in the first week. So 732 total secondary market sale. The biggest sale was a Tim Stützle Golden Treasure, Stützle Golden Treasures 101 auto. It was the Tim Cuddle card. If you saw our Instagram post about this one, that got a lot of engagement. So whoever did the eBay listing used Cuddle as his last name.
Did they relist it? I thought did they cancel the sale?
It was paid for.
Oh, was it? I thought someone said they, maybe I'm thinking of something else. Never mind.
And that sold for 582 US. It kind of gets to my biggest issue with Allure, and it has not so much to do with this past release, but with the set in general. There just really is not a lot of upside value-wise to this product, especially when you consider the average box cost, Troy, is like 140 US. Yep. So if you go and you look at the top publicly selling Allure card of all time, is the 2020 Kaprizov Golden Treasures 101. It's a BGS 9. It sold for 2,640 US last April. So it's a really tough product to strike it big. In fact, there's only 9 sales ever for more than $1,000. There's just hardly, and you look at beyond the Stützle 101, like the next highest sale is like 200 some bucks, right? So again, at 140 a box, this is not, I would guess very few boxes break even from a value perspective. Because of that, Troy, I'm going to give, from like my investor value rating, I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 10. I actually like the set. I like the cards. There's just, you almost have to hit a 101. Like when you look at all the top sales, they're all 101s.
Yeah.
Right? That's almost the only way to get a good outcome in this box. And so, like I said, I gave it a 3.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
As we were talking, I originally put down a 3 out of 10, but I'm going to put a 2 out of 10 as my final as we talk about it from the investor rating. And I think we've kind of learned, I bought a lot of last year, or Allure, because I could get autos super cheap of like Ottinger and all them. So we've kind of learned that there's just not a lot of value in these. And I don't think they're going to hold a lot of value. There's some people really poo-poo Allure. I think they don't like some of the design or look of it. I like it. I think it's good. But from an investing standpoint, I'm about a 2 out of 10. Love the 16-bet cards. Love the 16-bet cards. I'm going to say it again.
That could be the outlier from the end. That's the card I might buy for an investing perspective. Okay, let's move to collector rating on Allure. Like I said, the concepts and designs are really cool. I like the cards. I like the cards better than last year. They have some really interesting inserts. If you're just a collector, you like cool sets, I think the base cards look cool. They're very thick and heavy and shiny, and you're not really worried about secondary market values, and it's a decent option from my perspective. I've given a collector rating of a 5.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I said 6 out of 10. I like that what they did, obviously, with the 16 bits. I love the idea that they did with the rainbows. I think they changed that to the color wheel. Now, if I remember right. Do you know?
I think it's flow.
Or it's color flow. Is that what it is? Color flow?
Color flow.
Do you know, are the rainbows, are those autos at all? Or are they all just... Oh,
they have cards that are auto. So we did our video today that had our auto, and the card has like all the rainbow colors. Ours, of course, was a Grigory Denisenko.
Sweet.
So it's like a $2 auto, which is amazing. But
yeah, I give it from a collector. If I've said 6 out of 10. I'll say it again. 16 bits, the rainbow. Like, I don't know if that's a new idea, but it's the first time I remember seeing it. And I just love that they also try some. And we say this all the time. I love that they try new things with these cards and the Easter eggs. I'm all for it. So I say 6 out of 10.
Okay. Now it's time to start our SP Signature Edition Legends Love Fest, I'm sure. I'll try not to go total fanboy on this one, but I don't know, man. This could be the set of the year. I'll say it again. I don't know if we're going to do releases of the year. We probably will, because we'll be needing to figure out stuff to talk about this summer. And I think part of it is the timing is great.
Yeah.
And I feel like we really needed this right now. And I'll go back to this 2022 crop of rookies have been okay. but not super great. Not really really exciting and that are driving a lot of hype. And then on the 2021 side, you've got the Caulfield injury. So we have all these sets coming out that feature these guys that, man, there's just nobody that you're really kind of chasing. And then this product hits where you have crazy cards like the all-time Future Watch autos, where you have Gretzky, Lemieux, Messier, Future Watch autos. Like, are you kidding me? I love the fact that the all-time Future Watch autos are out of 49 and not 999. I mean, wouldn't it have seemed like the logical Upper Deck thing to do is to make them out of 99?
Those guys can't sign that many.
999.
Can't sign that many. Hands get
that's probably
shaky hands and stuff.
Love the card designs. Again, I really appreciate the base card designs. The pretty good checklist, I think, to some names, and we opened a few boxes at your house the other night. It's kind of funny. I think Legends becomes a little bit of a stretch on some of them. Like, who's the wild Nick Schultz, right?
Yeah.
Who's a fine player, but a legend? No. That's like one of my nitpicky things. The other one, probably my biggest nitpicky thing I don't like about the set is they're the goal parallel with facsimile autos. Those really bug me because they're super close to the real autos. And I don't know. I just, and kind of they have that MVP vibe to them, which I think they could have done out. The other couple cards I don't love, but I can live with are the Behind the Glass and the Life After Hockey. They're fine. I'm glad Upper Deck tried them, just not for me. Going back to the positives though, Troy, 2 autos per box. It's a very fun rip. And then when you have the other possibility of the acetate Future Watch, it feels like that I was trying to think of like the best way to put it. Like, you're in it the whole box. You know, so if you buy a box of SP Authentic and you pull your Future Watch auto out of the first pack, there's part of you that's like, okay, this box just got really boring really fast, no matter how good that card is. But where there's the possibility of 3 really big hits in a 16-pack box or something like that, 18-pack box, something like that, I just feel like that to the last pack, and even a bunch of the other inserts like Evolve or the Decagon are just really cool, that it keeps your attention from a content perspective through the whole box. Looking at the data, very, very healthy 1,142 secondary market sales as of Tuesday night, so not even a week. The all-time Future Watches are going bananas. There's a Gretzky out of 49 sold for $1,876 US. There's a Sakic that sold for $1,225 US. The Hasek we posted today was about 950, or just under 1,000. So for all those reasons, I love this product. And from an investor standpoint, I feel like this is one of the, like, you compare back to Allure, I feel like it's a miracle if you make your money back. I'm like mildly disappointed if I don't break even on a box of this, because I just think there's so many hit possibilities. And even the canvas cards are going for a lot, or the dominant digit cards are going for a lot. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 investor ROI rating. What are your thoughts?
All right, I think I'm going to have to correct one thing. Did all-time Future Watch autos, some of them are out of 49, not all of them, right? There's
like tier 1's 49, and some are out of 99.
There's some out of 199.
And I meant to say, I misspoke, like out of 999.
Yeah, that's like, what you're getting at. All right, from Troy's perspective, yes, obviously I'm not the biggest investor in everything. I've looked at the sales and all that, so I also gave it a 9 out of 10. Just because you get 2 autos in a box, you can hit some huge all-time Future Watch autos that are awesome. Lots of these cards should have a market for them, just because a lot of, like Billy told us before, a lot of these players haven't been in sets for a long time. Some of the autos, there's people that chase these guys and they haven't signed in a long time. So I think there's going to be a healthy market for a lot of these cards. And like you said, even the inserts, we're seeing a pretty healthy market from the investor / flipping side. So I gave it a 9 out of 10. And again, I am like you. I absolutely love this set. I want to buy just boxes upon boxes of it. I did. Like, it was one of the funnest rips, like just sitting there ripping them and going super slow, because I always wanted to look at all the like the pictures and the jerseys they're in. It was awesome. I loved it.
I want to make one more comment too on the investing side before we move to collecting, and it's about the values. So in a lot of products, right, like the flagship products are the best example of this, where you get Young Guns, it's the new hot player, and a Matty Beniers goes for $600. And then all of a sudden, 3 months later is $250, right? That's sort of like the prices are hot out of the gate, and then they tend to dip a little bit. I'm not saying that this is going to be the opposite, but there's not like, I feel that the market really understands where to value these. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Gretzky out of 49 that went for $1,800 is $3,000 6 months from now. Mm-hmm. It also wouldn't shock me if it's $900 either. Mm-hmm. So I'm not trying to say that that's a guarantee, but I think that makes this release in particular really fascinating to me to see where these trend to. Okay, we'll switch over to the collector rating. Don't let me forget, we got to tell the story of the Oilers.
Oh, yeah.
Future Watch win, because I just think that was really funny. From not just a money perspective, from a collector perspective, I have so much fun opening this. There's so many great players. It's hard. I mean, I tried hard to give it a 10. I knocked it a half a point just for going back to being a little bit liberal with the checklist as far as who they're considering legends. So I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10 from a collector perspective. What's your score?
I'm 10 out of 10 all the way. First 10 out of 10 I've given out, but I understand the knocking of a 0.5. That doesn't bother me one bit. I just figured they're a legend in someone's mind, even if it's their mother's. So I go 10 out of 10. Love it. Great. I just, like I said, I want to buy more boxes and rip.
So we had a kind of, it's hardly a business, but a very, very rare, like business focused Gongshow meeting the other night that was not fun, and not for any bad reasons. Fun because the government made it not fun. And our reward, right? Because we're like Pavlov's dog here. We have to have a carrot to getting through it. Was you had 3 boxes of SP Signature Editions Legends that we opened when we had concluded our meeting. And so we opened the boxes, and in the second box, I believe it was, you come on and we see it's an all-time Future Watch. And so you were in the let's sweat it mode, right? So you keep the top card on it so we can't see it. And then you set it aside. We get through the rest of the box, of course, and then we go back to it. And somehow you saw Oilers.
I went up by the bottom right. So I saw Oilers. We do his all-time Future Watch and Oilers.
So now we're like 2 schoolgirls like jumping around the living room at Troy's house here. And we thought, okay, before we see which card it is, we got to go to the checklist, right? Because we're thinking it's going to be like Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux. No,
it can't be Lemieux.
Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier,
Curry,
Gary Curry, and like Tyson Barrie or
and
something
Grant
like
Fuhr.
that. Like there's going to be
Grant Fuhr was on the list.
We just figure there's going to be one dud, and then which would mean for sure it's the dud. So we do check out, and the checklist is Gretzky, Mark Messier, Paul Coffey, Jari Kurri, and Grant Fuhr. And you end up getting the Grant Fuhr, but all of them were, I think you would have been fine with. It was just funny for a second, right? You start to play in your mind, what if this is a Gretzky, right? 1 in 5 chance, essentially, of it being a Gretzky. So that's our fanboy take on SP Signature Edition Legends. What I've seen, Troy, is most people love it too. So I think it's pretty widely considered a hit. As far as what's next, still waiting on checklists. I don't know if it's going to be the 22nd. It's probably unlikely now. Maybe the 29th for the next new release. We've heard SPX, but again, until there's a checklist, it's hard to know definitively. I did see, though, Troy, that I think Series 2 is pushed to April 12th, which gets it 8 days from the Expo.
Keep pushing it. My
theory is it's going to come out during the Expo. Okay, before we get into Mailbag, I want to make a quick mention for Gongshow partner and sponsor Slab Sharks. Thank them for helping us make our show possible. Reminder that the weekly Slab Sharks eBay auction ends tonight. You can search Google for Slab Sharks eBay or go to slabsharks.com to get to the auction. They have an amazing lot of hockey cards in this week's auction. They do really every week. A few of them we shouted out on Monday. I just did a story post featuring some of my favorites that I picked out. So there's a 2012 Fleer Retro Ovechkin Electrifying PSA 10. Love those inserts. There's a 2020 J-Rob OPG Platinum Matte Pink. We've got a 99 Auto PSA 10. There's a Cup Joe Sakic Limited Logos out of 50 patch auto. Beautiful 4-color patch. There's a 2019 Jack Hughes Young Guns BGS 10 canvas. Young Guns canvas BGS 10 pristine. Even better than that, there's a 2016 Austin Matthews Young Guns canvas BGS 10 pristine black label. Black label, Troy, the sexiest of all slabs, right? And then there's a 2007 The Cup Petty Cane limited logos out of 50 RPA with about a 600,000 different color patch. Just kidding. It's 4-color patch, but a sweet part of the shoulder patch from the jersey. Can go on and on here. Honestly, Troy, they have amazing cards in their weekly auctions. So just go to Slabshark's eBay again, check out their auctions that run Thursday to Thursday night. So if you miss this week's, there's always next week starts right away. And if you're a Canadian collector, have sweet hockey cards, you want to make some cash, you should consider using Slabsharks for consignment. They make it super easy, take away all the hassles of listing your cards. They answer buyer questions, ship to hockey card lovers like Josh and Troy in the US, and expose your cards to lots of eyeballs via their ever-popular and growing weekly auctions. So check out slabsharks.com for more consignment information as well. Mailbag time. All right, we're going to rip through these. From Instagram, 306HC. If you only had 2 products to open for the rest of your life, what would it be? I would say Upper Deck Series 1. Just love it. And OPC Platinum would be my choices. Really tough question to answer, though. I could probably spend days and be confused at the end of it trying to think through this.
So I wanted to know, are these 2 products being given to me, or do I have to save up money and buy these 2 products?
With your, I know I see your answer, and I had thought the same.
Because I'm like, if it's just either way, I'm saying the cup because I want the best cards and the coolest cards. And if I have to save up, then I can just save up all year for the cup because that's the only product I'm buying. Besides my other one, SP Signature Edition Legends, whatever it's called, the one we just talked about, and I gave it 10 out of 10. I would want to open that. I don't even care if they don't come out with the product every year, if it's every 3, 4, whatever. I still have the one product that's out, and I would be fine just ripping old boxes of that. I loved it so much. So those are my 2.
That is a Troy product. They should have named it SP Signature SP Troy.
Can we do a Gong Show Troy release?
Talk to Billy about that one or Tony about that one. Okay, next question from Instagram, Roy Glovesave. Thoughts on the new 16-bit insert in 2021-22 Allure? Appears it'll be returning in 2022-23. Is it good or bad?
Good.
So we just talked about it. I love it. It's my absolutely favorite card in the set. Oh, man. It's one of my more favorite inserts this year. I really, really like it. Definitely excited about it. I looked at the 2022-23 sell sheet, and I didn't see it on there.
It could be another unannounced. Maybe he found out that it's on.
I don't know. I'm not saying, Roy, that you don't know it's coming back. I just haven't seen that. I guess I would be a little disappointed if it does. I kind of like the idea of stuff like this being just like a 1-year thing. I don't know how you feel about that.
If it came back, though, I'd be interested to see what the new design would be because you can't do the player profiles again. I think it'd be sweet if they could make it look like the player on the NHL, or not on the NHL, but have the player on, like, remember the old Nintendo game, Ice Hockey, where you had the fat guy, the skinny guy.
Skinny guy. Yeah.
If they could make it somehow look like that, I think that'd be awesome.
Okay, next question. Instagram, JB Hockey Cards. Outside of the obvious, like Gretzky, OPG Rookie, McDavid, the Cup RPA, what is your holy grail card that you know for a fact you'll never be able to afford? Mine would be a Pasternak Future Watch Auto. You want to go first, Troy?
Yep, 1978, OPG, Mike Bossy, PSA 10. I think it was that last sale that basically broke my heart when it went for, I can't remember. It was
up huge.
It was like 40,000 or something. I can't, something way up there. Now, like, I know I'm going to steal your thunder a little bit. I'm not saying I couldn't ever afford it, maybe when I'm old and retired, but it will be a stretch for me probably to get that card at some point.
Sure. I would love a 71 OPG Guy Lafleur PSA 10. Try to speaker think it into existence. I'm not going to give up on it. Okay, Instagram, Ace of Grades 28. Are Young Guns overrated? What are some other sets products that deserve more recognition? I wouldn't say that they're overrated, Ace of Grades, because they're probably the most important hockey card there is, especially for a modern player. That being said, though, I do think at times they're overvalued, right? Because rating and value can be different, especially when you get in the case of very high pop count, high gem rate cards like the Kaprizov Young Guns. Troy, are you familiar with that one?
Mm-hmm. Very familiar.
Okay. That would be a great example where you have his Cup RPAs, even with the stickers, being the highest selling cards in the set because they're limited, where his card, Young Guns, is everywhere, and there's value issues with it because of that. I just think that they're important, but can be overvalued. But where I wouldn't say they're overrated, because if you do PC a guy, it's definitely a card you want in your PC. Even if the pop count of the Kaprizov Young Guns goes to 20 million, if you love the Wild and you love Kaprizov, it's a card you're going to want. no matter what it's worth. As far as sets that are emerging to me, I see the prominence of OPC Platinum continuing to grow. It seems like this past year, especially with some of the more rare parallels, you're starting to see more and more record sales, that type sort of thing. And so if you didn't want to focus on Young Guns, it's probably the next logical place to me. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, if you think Young Guns are overrated, then that's when you take the next step up, right? You start looking at maybe the Future Watch autos, because you know those are out of $9.99. Can't get over, so the pop's kind of controlled on those, or else you go the next step up where you go the cup, or then you start looking at seismic golds or whatever you want to do. There's a bunch of other stuff you can look at, but I don't think Young Guns are overrated at all. And as emerging sets, yes, OPC Platinum, I think, is getting a lot of steam. I would love to see Stature get more steam, but I don't know if it will. I'm just a Stature fanboy at times.
Okay, next question. Instagram, South Bay Finest Gabe. What rookies do y'all see doing great? I just pulled a signed Mason McTavish, and I'm super stoked about it. Well, congrats on pulling a McTavish auto. That's pretty awesome. By far the best rookie this year, it has been Andrei Kuzmenko, but he's been awesome. He's got 33 goals now.
And he's old.
He's just 27 years old.
You're old.
Yeah, compared to Beniers, who has 19, who's the top goal scorer for the Calder-eligible guys. You kind of have to, unfortunately, take Kuzmenko a little bit out of that conversation. So as far as the Calder-eligible rookies go, my top four would be Beniers, your guy, South Bay, McTavish, then Kent Johnson, and then probably Wyatt Johnston. None of them are exactly lighting the world on fire. I will say, though, McTavish seems to be surging a little bit. He has 5 points in his last 5 games, and now has actually moved up to second in the rookie points scoring list, behind, I think, 4 points now behind Beniers or something like that. I don't know, Troy, any thoughts on this?
No, I mean, that you hit the guys I thought of, and I thought of Kuzmenko too. Like, just he's just a unique case, just like that one outlier guy, and we get to see it. So I'm curious how he kind of plays out. Well, he can't win the Calder, right? He's out of that just because
he's 27.
Too old. The other guys I'm on board with, none of them really excite me too much. I was a McTavish guy after the juniors performance, and I'm glad to see him kind of heating up a little bit, because I want to see more of him and his sweet hair on TV.
Yeah. Now, we haven't had the chance to ask anyone at Upper Deck this, but do you think they'll make a Young Guns for Kuzmenko?
I almost said that, and then I stopped myself because I was like, knowing maybe I forgot that he had one. But now that you say that, it did pop in my head. We should ask him. Give the man some love.
I wonder if my guess is he'll have one, but it'll be an extended. That's just my guess. Okay, next question, Instagram Flip Cards. Do you think the team that drafts Connor Bedard will have any impact on his card values? Would the value be any lower if he's drafted by a smaller visibility team like Columbus or Arizona instead of Chicago or Montreal? Okay, so I'll go first on this, Troy, and then you can chime in. I think that the hype is so high to start, it doesn't matter where he is at this point, just as long as he's in the NHL. Would it be fractionally better if he's in Chicago or Montreal? Sure. But no, everybody's going to be chasing this guy no matter what sweater he's wearing. That's just my view. What do you think?
I agree 100%. I do think there is a bump, though, a little bump if he goes to like Montreal or a Canadian team, because you have a very, I don't know, I think you'd get a little bump from the amount of just crazy collectors in Canada and for those teams, for like Montreal or maybe Chicago. But it's not, I don't think it's going to be a very big bump. I think the hype train is so huge on him right now. When his Young Guns comes out, it's game on. Everyone's going to be going after it.
Okay, next question from Sauce Boss Cards on Instagram. Do cards that have autos have less value if you don't grade the auto as well? I think to some people it probably matters. To me, not so much. But again, to some it would. So for that reason, it probably reduces by some degree the potential market of buyers and may hurt the value a tiny bit. But it also depends on the rarity of the card. If it's a 101 or out of 10 and it's super highly sought after, people would just do a visual inspection and probably be fine with it.
Yeah, I could see some people wanting, I don't know if, when he says grade, is he saying like you give it the 9 or the 10? What about the authentic? I'm sure there's some buyers that want to see an authentic.
He's saying grade the card, but not the auto. So it'd be like a PSA 10 with no auto grade. You can do that. Yeah,
I'm sure there's some collectors that would. It wouldn't bother me. I would do my research. And I just don't want a bubbly card or a bubbly auto.
Next question from Instagram, DB Sports Cards. Will Slavkovsky Wright be the top chase cards for Series 2? I think they'll be two of the bigger names, but to be honest, neither has done much.
Have we had a Shane Wright? Have we had a Shane Wright update lately? What's he doing?
Last I heard, he wasn't doing that amazing in the OHL, but that might have changed. And so you got him playing in the CHL, and then Slavkovsky being injured. I think as it sits right now, I can see Wyatt Johnston or Kuzmenko, if he's in Series 2, again at 27, probably being the bigger chases. There's that Jake Sandstrom, I think, too. He's a defenseman, though, for Ottawa.
What about, I just remember Maselli. Is he?
Matthias Maselli is a Series 1.
Series 1, okay. Thank God you're here.
So it's probably Wyatt Johnston, to me, is the most logical choice for the big. And he's got, I think, the second most goals or third most goals of any rookie this year. Okay, next question. Our favorite guy, Big Shot.
JR. We got it now. It's JR.
It says, hey, dudes, love the mariachi tunes. I sure wish you could get my name right, though. It's not Junior. It's JR, not J. Big Shot JR. The burning question I have this week is, are all-time Future Watch acetate cards a Hobby Box exclusive, or will they be in e-packs as well? I think part of probably why you like us so much is that we can't do something as simple as say your name right. That's really, I think that's an active, kind of makes us who we are, right? Sort of thing, that we suck at saying every name. So you fit right in on our show. And wouldn't our show maybe lose a little magic if we said your name right? But we'll say Big Shot JR.
Yeah, Big Shot JR.
I did reach out to Upper Deck on your behalf. Signature Edition Legends is headed to e-pack, so Troy's 401k just took a huge hit. And the acetate Future Watch autos will be in e-pack as well. Next question. Instagram vaulted cards. If you're sent an offer on eBay as a seller and you know you're not going to accept it, but maybe you're just watching to see if any other sales come through, should you refuse the offer or just let it sit until the offer expires? I think I know what you're getting at here, Vaulted. I think if you know you're not going to accept it, I would just reject it, because that person may not be buying other cards because they're reserving that money for your card. I don't know, Troy, any comments on that?
I would just reject it. Or, I mean, I don't see, I do, like you said, I kind of get what he's getting at, but I would just reject it and move on with my life.
Okay, so next one is from Gongshow Discord, H. Diggler. Do you think now that breaking platforms, or platforms now taking on breakers, are getting really popular, that they should provide some self-monitoring options for users to put daily spend caps, time lockouts, to help manage some impulsive decisions? Of course, this is the last thing they want to do, not have people spend money, but just out of basic ethical nature to give users an option. As this type of not gambling, but really gambling grows, there's going to be more legislative eyes on it. Would seem the companies favor to put some proactive measures for users before it goes cascading down to packs of cards, much like the whole video game loot box fiasco. So I'm interested to hear that tie-in, because I know you're a big video game guy. So I'll go first and then let you roll with this. I don't know, Diggler, this one's a tough one for me, because on one hand, it's a free country and you never want to infringe on anyone's rights to make their own choices. I think it's also hard for a breaker to understand what the given financial situation is of every one of their customers. They don't know if you're sitting on a $100 million bank account and can buy breaks all day, no problem, or if you're late on your car payment on the other end of the spectrum. What I would hope that they would do, though, is that if any customer gives sort of any cues, boy, I'm spending a lot, I need to take a break, oh my God, I looked at my credit card bill, that I think an ethical breaker at that point would maybe message that person and say, hey, just want to reach out. I saw you made the comment, not sure what your situation is, but just tell them that it's okay to take a break from breaking a little bit, and encourage them to take care of their financial situation. But it's like there's lots of things that are like this, whether you're at a bar and how to serve people, all these ethical questions, or at a casino, how much should someone be allowed to bet? To me, it's a tough one. But what do you think, Troy? I'm kind of interested on the whole loot box fiasco thing, because I'm not at all familiar with it.
The loot boxes are crazy. Like people are spending tons of money, and the odds of getting like the rare item in a game was so astronomical. Here's what I'll say. If these companies are smart, they're going to figure out a way to they're going to put a system in to have self-imposed restrictions that you can do, like gambling sites. If you look at sports gambling sites, always at the bottom, it's kind of hidden, but it always has, I need help, or I need a break, or there's a way for you to either shut your account down or stop you from betting. Yeah. I think these companies, if they're smart, they're going to figure out a way. They better figure out a way to do this. because what's going to happen, it might not be in the US or Canada right away, but if this becomes an issue in the EU, they'll jump on it. They're a lot more proactive. And I think that's where the loot boxes really got, they started the EU. I can't remember if it was specific countries in the EU started making these companies publish the odds that you can hit certain items in a loot box. And once you see that the odds of hitting that rare item is 1 in, who knows, 200 million. I mean, there were some that was just astronomically high. Don't take the 200 million, but it was really high. And so I think these companies, if they're smart, will do something. Again, I'm all for the free country, or it's a free country. You are responsible for yourself. But I've also seen just in all aspects of life with people, sometimes people just can't control themselves, whether it be alcohol, gambling, other things. And sometimes maybe this helps them. I don't know. But I think these companies...
You and I have talked about, in break rooms we hang out, about, I don't know, I can't remember anyone specifically, but in general, just about, we'll hang out in a break room for a few days in a row, and it's like, holy cow, this person must be spending like $500 a day or something like that. And the reason why I bring that up is I think that another element of this is, to some extent, there's this balancing act that you think as a breaker that you want to preserve your customer base, like that you can burn people out. Yeah. But then they're not, then they're gone. Right. And so.
And you also don't know, though. Maybe this guy has tons of money and it's, it'd be like a lot of money to me, but to him, it's like pennies. And it's just, you never know. It's a good question. It's something that they're probably going to have to figure out.
Okay, next one, Gongshow Discord, Hockey Cards Plus. My question, do you think McDavid/Draisaitl need to improve defensively to win a cup? I asked because I remember when Scotty Bowman came to Detroit, he told Stevie Y he had to sacrifice some offense, get better defensively to win a cup, and his stats did suffer some. I looked it up, and you would figure McDavid with 124 points and only a plus 10 plus minus. Draisaitl, who at the time had 96 points, was a -2. I know plus minus isn't everything, but I'm going on a limb and say they've got to get better defensively or no cup in their future. I'm going to take this first, but because I think you're actually better equipped than me to answer this. I tried to look up today some defensive metrics, and you're more the hockey data guy, Troy. Couldn't really find anything that really speaks to a player's defensive prowess. But from everything I've read about these guys, it doesn't seem like that they're surely not a defensive liability. And for the last year and a half, 2 years, I feel like I see all the time that it's really the blue line and the goalie have been the biggest defensive issues for the Oilers. And maybe the more Draisaitl and McDavid focus on defense, the better off they'll be as a team. But they really need to fix the goalie and the blue line.
That's what the first thing to me that came up in my head too. It's like I can live with McDavid and Draisaitl probably not being. They're not going to be the greatest defense players in the world, but I don't think they're that bad. I haven't looked at it in depth, but how about the other 23 players? you guys worry about the defense, especially you goalies, and we'll let them keep getting their points. But it's a good point that obviously if you do focus on your D, you probably will suffer a little. But these guys are such great playmakers and scorers that I don't want to lose that from my team. They're probably a couple of only guys. Like if you told Kaprizov to focus on his defense, I don't think the Wild would score any goals because they wouldn't have anyone to do it.
They would just lose.
I was going to say some of the metrics, like you can always look at like Corsi against percentage, which looks at, I'm not even going to get into it, but there's some Corsi numbers. I know we talk about Corsi 4% a lot on the offensive side, but you can also look at it in the reverse. Just 1 minus Corsi forward. You can see like when that player's on the ice, how many shots are getting against the team and a bunch of stuff like that. But yeah, if I'm the Oilers, I'm telling my goalie and my defensive coach to make sure they're better. And, that third and fourth line need to be my shutdown offensive defensive line.
Last question from Instagram, the Chad 91. Are certain players' young guns overpriced due to just speculation of their career, or are they sitting about right? I.e. Matty Beniers. He's my favorite player, but I can't seem to pull the trigger. It feels like his price will drop once Bedard has a card. We've talked about this a bunch. I think you're on the right track, the Chad. Right out of the gate, the young gun values are high when they're scarce and they're new, and then they trend and they have all they are is potential at that point, and potential drives a lot of price. And as the population increases, as time goes on, as the newness rubs off, as their production starts to outweigh their potential in either a good or bad way, then a lot of times you'll see these come down. you're playing it really smart with Beniers. His young, we don't talk about this a lot too, but we have in the past the concept of replaceability. Mm-hmm. You'll be able to get a Matty Beniers Young Guns PSA 10 any hour of any day you want. So, and that's one of the things where our brain works against us at times, is we think that everything is so scarce and limited. Young Guns cards are not, and that's honestly, part of what makes them cool in some ways, that they're really accessible. So Beniers has been good. He is leading the rookies, but he hasn't been fantastic. They're not going to probably win the Stanley Cup, I'm guessing. There's going to be an off-season dip, probably around mid-July, when it tends to happen every year. And I think that if you are targeting that Matty Beniers Young Guns, whatever grade you're looking at, or raw, that would be a great time to buy it, if you can hold off that long. Anything to add to that?
Nope, that was dead on.
Okay, that is our show for Thursday. If you like the episode, please leave a rating review on Apple, Spotify, whatever podcast app you listen to us on. We're almost on 100 Spotify ratings. If you love the show, want to support us, want to chat with us every day on the Hockey Cards Gongshow Discord server, please consider a $5 a month donation and join our out of 99 support level tier on Patreon. The link is in the show description for the podcast app you're listening to us on right now. Within our Instagram profile and our link tree, you can search Hockey Cards Gongshow on the Patreon website, Patreon, or you can go to our website, hockeycardsgongshow.com, and there's a Become a Patron link there. If you're not following us on social media, we're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. And Troy, the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast is a production of Dollar Box Ventures LLC. We'll see you all on Monday. Have a great rest of the week and a great weekend.